The EU, or the European Union, is a powerful economic and political partnership that exists between 27 democratic European countries. Whilst the EU was created on the 1st of November 1993, one can easily trace the roots of its creation back to the end of the Second World War. In 1951, with the Treaty of Paris, France, West Germany, Italy, and the Benelux countries, or Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, together known as the Inner Six, formed the European Coal and Steel Community, or ECSC. The ideals of the Union were to unify the area under peace and hopes of a single market. Trying to further these ideals, the Six went on to establish the European Economic Community, or EEC, and the European Atomic Energy Community, EAEC, or Euratom, with the signing of the Treaties of Rome in 1957. To further the unification that was occurring through these separate communities, the Brussels Treaty, also known as a merger treaty, was signed in order to combine the executive bodies of the ECSC, Euratom, and the EEC to form a single structure known as the European Communities. With its quick growth, the Maastricht Treaty, or the Treaty of the European Union, was signed to not only enable the European Community for its enlargement, but also led to its restructuring and the renaming to the European Union. Today, the EU has 27 member states. These member states are as follows. Committed to regional integration, the EU is split up into three main pillars: the European Commission, the European Parliament, and the Council of the European Union. Its main aims are, as stated by the EU itself, peace, prosperity, and freedom for its 498 million citizens in a fairer, safer world. This is seen further with the motto of the EU, United in Diversity. The EU also aims to promote sustainable development and a healthier environment, while retaining a strong, balanced economy. One of the three pillars of the European Union, the European Commission, is known as its executive organ. It works to symbolize as well as enforce the common interests of Europe as a whole. Its main responsibilities lie with the preparing and drafting of new proposals for European laws, which in turn will be later presented to the other pillars of the EU, the European Parliament, and the Council of the European Union. It then carries its relationship to the law forward and continues to enforce these rules and regulations upon all member states on a day-to-day basis. And in fact, it can act against any countries that break said laws by bringing them to the European Court of Justice. Another of the Commission's tasks is that of spending of the EU funds. Whilst the Commission consists of only 27 men and women, one from each member state, they are assisted and work with a number close to 24,000 civil servants, with most based in Brussels. The President of the Commission, currently José Manuel Barroso, is appointed for a period of 5 years and is chosen by EU governments with the approval of the European Parliament. The others are chosen with nominations from their home governments with reference to the incoming President. They do not actually represent their home countries, but a particular policy area. A second pillar of the EU is that of the European Parliament, which is also seen as a voice of the people. Coinciding with the time period of the European Commission's President's term of office, the European Parliament is also elected every 5 years, but unlike the Commission's President, the Parliament is chosen by the people of Europe to represent their interests. The Parliament's main job is to pass and approve on laws proposed and put forth by the European Commission, a shared responsibility with the Council of the European Union. Another of its tasks, also shared with the Council, is the approval of the EU's budget, which is €130 billion. The members of the EU Parliament, with Jerzy Buzek as current President, like the Commission, do not purely represent their country or sit in national segregations. In fact, the EU Parliament is split up by political groups, for example, the European People's Party. They are in respect split up according to ideological views, with groups such as Socialists, Liberals, Greens, and others. The meetings of the EU Parliament are mainly in Strasbourg, France, and in Brussels, Belgium. The final of the three EU pillars is that of the Council of the European Union, which is also seen as the voice of the member states. Formerly known as the Council of Ministers, the Council of the European Union, as already stated, shares the responsibility with the EU Parliament for passing and approving of laws and proposals put forth by the EU Commission, but also carries the weight of being in charge of the EU's foreign, security, and defence policies, and is also in charge of key decisions and choices made on freedom and justice matters. Javier Solana currently is the High Representative for the Common Foreign and Security Policies. The EU Council is made up of ministers from the governments of the member states. However, only the appropriate ministers attend the meetings in concern. For example, if the meeting is on the subject of foreign policies, only foreign ministers will attend said meeting. The presidency of the Council is changed every 6 months, with a different member state assuming said presidency, which in turn means that it will set the overall political agenda as well as chair the meetings. As this pillar of the EU, unlike the other two, is divided amongst its member states, each country is given a number of votes to roughly reflect its population. With this, most decisions and choices made are done so simply by majority ruling. However, for some more controversial topics, such as immigration and taxation, unanimous decisions must be made. To decide an overall EU procedure, several times a year the heads of governments for the different member states will meet at the Council and converse and debate over the correct decisions and policies to be integrated. Together, these three pillars work to achieve the goals and aims of the EU. However, just how well has the EU worked in achieving these goals? In terms of its aim to create a freer and more united world for its population, it certainly has attempted to achieve this. The EU has enacted certain legislation and domestic policies that enable this, including the abolishment of all passport control between 25 European countries, which form the Schengen area. Also, the uniting of countries has further helped in its aim to achieve a single market. One of its greatest pushes for this is with the use of the euro currency. Whilst the Maastricht Treaty has stated that all member countries of the EU must adopt the euro, only 16 of the 27 countries in the EU have currently done so. So whilst the use of the euro has opened the markets and allowed freer and easier trade, tourism and transport between the 16 countries in the eurozone, the fact those other 11 countries are yet to adopt it shows that the EU still has some way to go to achieve complete unity. The EU has also combated employment and discrimination problems to achieve its aim of a strong and equal economy. Across the EU, common legislation outlaws discrimination in terms of race, gender, ethnicity, disability, sexual orientation, age, religion, or any other belief. Furthermore, hand in hand with its lack of border control, the EU has set up easy access to jobs across Europe with its advertising on its EURES website. This helped to cut unemployment levels to just 7.1% in 2007, according to the European Commission. In terms of sustainability, the EU is widely credited with forcing the pace on improvements to the quality of air, rivers and beaches. Measures such as the Urban Waste Water Treatment Directive have led to dramatic improvements in the rivers over the last 30 years, making possible, for example, the return of otters to the British countryside. Other legislation has greatly reduced the problems of acid rain. The UK, once the dirty man of Europe, cut sulfur emissions by 73% between 1990 and 2002. And if 30 years ago most British beaches failed the test of the EU Bathing Water Directive, now 98% of them get the thumbs up. In response to the recent financial crisis, the EU has also been very active. The devastating financial crisis damaged a lot of the work the EU had done in improving employment levels. However, the EU responded to this with a large amount of effort. The European Social Fund has stated it plans to spend €77 billion between 2007 and 2013 purely on the investment into human capital. The European Globalization Adjustment Fund has €500 million available annually to provide support to the workers made redundant. Both of these will go a long way in both retraining those who have lost their jobs to enable their employment once again, and also ease the effects of the crisis. In response to climate change, the EU has further shown its ability and effort to follow its aims. In 2000, the European Commission launched the European Climate Change Programme specifically to help combat the situation, and has done so with various legislations and policies. This has been shown to be working with the fact that the recent monitoring data has shown that 15 countries, members of the EU at the time of the EU's ratification of the Kyoto Protocol in 2002, will reach their target for cutting emissions. Furthermore, the EU has set out plans to combat climate change further into the future, seeing with its ambitious global agreement in its communication limiting global climate change to 2 degrees Celsius, the way ahead for 2020 and beyond. They have committed to cut their 1990 levels of emissions by 30% by the year 2020, provided other developed countries commit to comparable reductions. All in all, it really seems that the European Union is leading the way in sustainable development.